Gentlemen, as you perfectly know, a famous blogger Eric Davidich has recently released a video named Technician, where he just smashed all the motor oil brands, and millions of comments from boss saying, Eric, you are doing wrong, you are showing wrong, nothing is clear, follow. I partly agree with them. Nevertheless, the main thing is that he showed you motor oils are not as cool as it is written on their packages anymore. Therefore, being one of those boss, I came to this staggering laboratory provided by VMPAUTO. Today, we will perform justice over the titan of the motor oil industry, Castrol. Here comes the time of awesome stories. Everything started for a reason. A person who had bought one of the most expensive cars got into touch with me not long ago. It seemed to him that his engine started to work differently with time, but he thought it was somehow connected with the breaking-in period. He came to a dealer who made general inspection and changed the motor oil after 15,000 kilometers of running. But the car owner had some doubts after watching the Eric's video. He asked the dealer to give him the sample of motor oil, which was usually poured in the engine. The dealer poured him out a can of this oil without any problems and sent him away. Thus, we have got the car with the 16,800 kilometrage that has already gone through its breaking-in period. A very strange noise in the engine could be heard, a very small one, but it wouldn't stop. He asked me how to check my car quickly. He tried to find a laboratory, looking in different guides, asking some people and so on. And finally, he found VMPAUTO. There is a huge number of independent testing chambers, which can do everything in short time for your money. But what we needed was an open access in order to show everything visually. This company, VMPAUTO, allowed us to enter their laboratory. So now we can show you everything. We have got two samples of motor oil, the new one, delivered from the dealer, and the one poured from the engine. The motor with this oil has run 1,800 kilometers after the general inspection. The results you are going to see today would probably surprise you. Can you see it? The car has already been driven away to the dealer, who must find out why it happened. It is possible to say offhand why there was metal cutting in the oil only by dismantling of the engine. Pay attention that this car has only run 16,800 kilometers. What I wanted to tell you is that this happens with oil for a reason. As we know, there is a pretty simple parameter which helps us to choose the motor oil. This is the CAE parameter, which includes all well-known numbers such as 5W30, 10W40, or W666. Everybody buys his own oil for a car according to this parameter. These numbers represent the following. The first number shows the lower point when you start your engine in the winter, and the second number shows high point. In other words, how the oil works in full loaded engine at operating temperature. One of the most interesting parameters of oil is HTHS. We will talk about it today. Frankly speaking, HTHS is a characteristic at which the oil layer between piston ring and cylinder wall still exists. The piston has a specific maximum rate, at which it runs like crazy back and forth. These numbers are generally known, and here you can see them. There is also a parameter that represents a minimum at which the oil can keep the layer, in spite of the lowered volume and working conditions of the engine. Different classes of oil have different figures of this parameter, for example 2.9, 3.1, and it is difficult to explain their meaning. In crude terms, this parameter mainly depends on the type of engine. For example, if you buy a specified type of oil for your cool turbo car, this oil will have its own established minimum in order to keep the layer, as your car usually works under severe conditions. In case, if you have a car with a simple engine, you can probably buy a standard oil, because this kind of engine doesn't work under severe conditions and high temperatures. Well, we took the motor oil Castrol from a dealer, which is to be poured to this Range Rover. It is a very expensive oil, though. It was found out that this oil meets the technical requirements, but its figures are of the lower range. That means, if we go even lower, it will be an oil of another class, which doesn't fit to the engine of our Range Rover. Anyway, it doesn't matter, as all the characteristics of the motor oil is fine according to the requirements. As long as we are real boss, we are going to show you the quality testing process. First of all, we have got an expensive and really sophisticated equipment. Moreover, we will use a friction pair, which working conditions fully corresponds to the real characteristics of the engine. It consists of a roller made of the cast iron, which imitates the piston walls. The detail that will be pressed down to the roller is made of the same metal as piston rings. Thus, we have two details made of the same material at the engine itself. A great amount of small devices and sensors will be fixed to these details. For instance, this piece of metal has a little hole where the thermopair is to be inserted. It is made in order to get an accurate temperature in the contact zone. All results will be displayed on the screen. This machine also has a sensor showing the force in newtons that allows us to know the resistance of our friction pair. We will pour the motor oil in the contact zone with the help of the dispensing system. First of all, we need to run in our friction pairs. That is, the machine is working under minimal load on the minimum rotary speed. The effort with which details are pressed to each other is only 15 kg, and a small torsional resistance has appeared. It will be rising continually, and we will be increasing the pressing force little by little. The machine will be working in this regime for about an hour. We can see the motor oil getting into the oil pipe from the syringe, which then is poured into the friction zone. After an hour, the machine will reach the temperature, which is close to the working temperature of the engine, and then we will increase load and see some real results. Now, the screen will be our main companion, and we will be able to see what happens in the friction pair. The shaft speed will always be 1000 rotations per minute. There will be three lines. The tortoise line will represent load, that is, the force with which the friction pair is pressed to each other. The blue line will represent the friction torque, that is, the force with which details resist the rotation of the axle. The red line is the most significant as it shows the temperature in the friction zone. It is measured with the help of the thermopair. There is a number of rotations that the cast iron roller has already done in the top right corner of the screen. After the machine had worked under low load and details had run in, we increased load up to 55 kg. This load corresponds to the compression in the diesel engine on normal rotations, maximum boost and maximum injection. Then we do the most interesting thing. We replace a new oil from the package with the old one from the engine, which had run about 2000 kilometers. As soon as the oil reached the friction pair, temperature rose instantly together with the friction torque. The temperature has already exceeded the critical level of 150 degrees. Notably, the oil manufacturers usually indicate all characteristics according to this level of temperature. When you drive a car with the engine temperature more than 150 degrees, you use it at your own risk. Now again, we add some new oil, and you can see the temperature and friction torque decreasing at once.
Температура снова стала возвращаться к отметке 150, снова понизился момент трения, все это вернулось на свои прежние значения. В процессе этого мы
During the process, we increased load up to 60 kilograms and even up to 70 kilograms, but it almost didn't influence the temperature and friction moment, because the new oil was still working. The diagram shows that we made the same operations under the same load of 55 kilograms, and all three lines rose, while the temperature rose even up to 180 degrees. But we wanted to do hardcore and decided to demonstrate what happens with the oil if the temperature exceeds the specified requirements. We rose load up to 85 kilograms and added some old oil from the engine. You can see the smoke coming from the friction pair with the naked eye. At the same time, the noise did not appear. The diagram shows that the temperature and friction moment are rising almost up to 180 degrees. No manufacturer will guarantee the safety for your car under such load. Our test has been carried out only for 2 hours. A full test lasts for about 5 hours. After the test, the friction pairs were not damaged. There was no visible damage on rollers and rings. I tried with my own fingers. There is only one little line visible. The carbon or lacquer also weren't detected on the surfaces, as they appear only if you use a low-quality motor oil. It is not for us to draw conclusions. The car has already been driven away to the dealer, and he must find out why it happened. To say why there were metal cuttings in the motor oil, we can only after dismantling of the engine. I pay your attention that car has only run 16,800 kilometers. We cannot say with confidence why it happened and what the source of the problem was, the motor oil or a manufacturing defect. Sure, we can know everything after getting the expert's opinion. Now we just have to wait for a while. In our video, we just wanted to demonstrate what happens with the motor oil of famous brands. Motor oil manufacturers tell you in their advertisements that using their oil you can do everything, even fly to space. But it doesn't true. When the working conditions decline from the requirements, motor oil with 2000 kilometers running in a new cool modern engine has worse properties than a new oil. As you saw, as soon as we increased load, the temperature in friction zone rose up to 150 degrees. This is caused because of the change in lubricating properties of oil. Therefore, the increase in friction moment also rises the temperature in the friction zone. As soon as the temperature rises above 150 degrees, it becomes unclear whether the motor oil will be working or not. The motor oil manufacturers fulfill all tests at the temperature of 150 degrees. Today I mentioned the HTHS parameter, which is a very complicated thing. Its measurements should be made on another equipment. I will tell you what the HTHS is in my next video, and surely I will show you all the tests. We have this proper equipment to show you if oils conform to the HTHS standard.
Что можно сделать с маслом? Как можно продлить ему жизнь? И можно ли вообще что-либо сделать самостоятельно с ним так, чтобы это еще как-то ходило? Мы также расскажем вам в следующем
In
передаче.
case if somebody thinks that it is a loose advertisement, don't worry, that is for you to draw a conclusion. My aim is just to show some technical characteristics of things that we buy, and how can we improve these characteristics.
Технические характеристики того, что попадает к нам в руки, и как эти характеристики можно изменить в лучшую сторону. Всем огромное спасибо.
Thank you very much, wish you good luck, bye.
И пока.